Hello. All right. This is horrible. I notice there's a bunch of stuff in the background. Let me fix it. All right. Let me get things organized here. One thing I don't like about doing YouTube Live, I cannot get it adjusted before I start. So there we go. The seat's really low. Okay. So I hope I'm coherent today. We just drove, I don't know, 19 hours or something like that. We drove back from Florida all night. We left after church last night, and then we drove all night, and that was really tough. So I had a very, very, very late shift. I had from, 1:30 in the morning until 4, and it was tough, believe me. I don't even like Dr. Pepper, but I got so desperate I needed some sort of caffeine, and there was a Dr. Pepper like in between the seats, so I drank that and ate popcorn to keep myself awake. As I was going down the road, of course, most of the van was sleeping, so that was tough. And then as soon as my son took over at 4, I went in the back seat and completely crashed till about 7, and I was out. I was able to sleep a little bit, but then we got home around 12 or 1, and I dove right into laundry and getting the suitcases unpacked, and then I had to crash again this afternoon. So I put in my contacts yesterday morning, Sunday morning for church, and they have not been taken out since. So I'm a little rough tonight. So we'll see how it goes, but I didn't want to skip. I do have, hey, Julia and Joyce and KJV. I do have a special edition of Gently Led Sisters coming that I'm excited about. We did a special episode at the camp. So as soon as I get the Brother Garrett from Revival is uploading that, and as soon as he sends me the link, I will either premiere it next Monday or do a special premiere this week. I haven't quite decided. I also have another guest lined up. Her name is, I'm sure many of you know her, Ashlyn Thrasher, and we really got along at camp. She's been my Facebook friend forever, but I got to meet a lot of my Facebook friends in real life, friends that I already feel like I know, but I got to actually meet them in real life. And so she has a really, really awesome testimony. So I want her to be on here to share it with you ladies. I think it will definitely help. I have a big genre of ladies that come to my channel who are newly saved or have been saved, later in life. And so that's kind of her testimony. So I want her to share. It's a really, really neat testimony. Hey, Amanda. So she will be on next Monday or the following Monday, depending on when I premiere the special episode of Gently Led Sisters. So basically what it was we had a show with the ladies of the church there at Revival. And then I had a bunch of them, whoever wanted to, and Miss Robin's one of them. So one of the first times that she's on camera, I had them come up and give just a short, tips, advice, things they've learned in parenting and things like that at the end. So I think that's going to be really interesting. So definitely look forward to that. But I actually had 2 things planned. I wrote the outline that I'm doing tonight on the way there. And this one is a more broad outline that, singles and teenage girls and older women can all relate to. But I asked Miss Robin what she thought her church specifically needed. And she has a lot of younger moms, maybe that haven't been raised in a Christian home. And so I focused more on just a crash course in parenting, training, the whys, the hows, etc. So that'll be premiering hopefully this coming Monday or this week. I don't know. We might have 2 this week. So that would be pretty cool. Okay, so this week, though, I wanted to talk about our unique personalities and embracing God's design. I see oftentimes, I don't know quite how to word this, and I'm hoping my words come out correct tonight because I'm so tired and, I'm running off of adrenaline at this point. So I want to be clear and I want to be articulate, and I don't want to say anything that comes across wrong or comes across not in the right manner intended. So this is something that's near and dear to my heart, though, because I've always struggled with this. Being in the ministry and being a pastor's wife, this is something that I've struggled with. So a little bit of my background, I am the firstborn. If many of you don't know that, I am the firstborn, a family of 5. And because I am the firstborn, you'll often find that there are certain personality traits in birth orders in families. And in my specific birth order, being a firstborn, I am very, I'm a go-getter. I'm an extrovert. I'm very outgoing. I am competitive. I am opinionated, all things. I'm a strong leader. And that comes from this being the oldest of 5. I had higher expectations placed in my life because I was the oldest. The oldest is usually the one that the parents devote the most time one-on-one with before siblings come. And I do believe that that has a part in molding their personality from the day that they are born. So I've always been, I've always had a strong personality. And I believe, especially in the 70s, there was a teaching going around about pastors' wives. And I do believe that a lot of it was because one of the main pastors' wives that people looked up to was Mrs. Beverly Hiles. And, her husband is kind of the one. Actually, my husband said it was another one who started fundamentalism a little bit before him. But he was kind of the one that became that fundamentalism was well known because of was Brother Jack Hiles. And so his wife was a very quiet, very meek woman. And a lot of women kind of looked up to her as the ideal pastor's wife. And so there was a teaching going on that, a pastor's wife needed to be seen and not heard. A pastor's wife needed to just, not really voice her opinion, be very meek, be very quiet. And I believe that you can be opinionated, but also be meek in a sense that meekness is not weakness. Meekness is where you have a quiet strength, but you choose to rein that in, or you have the capability to hurt someone maybe with your words and you choose not to when you choose to forgive instead of getting revenge. I believe that can all be, compassed in the word meek. So this is something that I've struggled with when I was growing up. I heard teaching like this. I thought I had to be a certain way, fit into a certain mold, especially marrying someone that was going into the ministry. But as I've gotten older and I've grown in my relationship with the Lord and in my relationship with other women and my husband, I've noticed that there is a fallacy. So obviously there are things that God wants out of all of us. And I want to look at one of the clearest scriptures in the Bible when it comes to women, and that's in Titus 2:3-5. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this up on the computer, not so that you guys can see it, but just so I can see it. And I kind of did I went through the words and I kind of looked at them. I actually looked them up on the Webster's 1828 dictionary because Webster took a lot of these words and he based them off of biblical meanings of biblical definitions. So that's why I like using that dictionary when I'm specifically looking at Bible words. But Titus 2:3-5 says the aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed. So here in this verse, we definitely have an outline for, biblical womanhood, or, just a way to be a good Christian lady. So I kind of broke down the words. And I do believe that all of this applies to anyone that is a Christian lady, a saved lady. And so the first one would be not false accusers. So obviously the first thing, and if you guys have any thoughts as we're going through this, I say you guys, I explain this to the ladies in Florida. I say you guys, that's just a northern thing. When I say you guys, it's just all encompassing. It doesn't mean I'm talking to guys. It's you ladies, but that's just what we say up here in North. You guys, instead of y'all. My best friend says y'all. So I'm not saying you guys like there's guys watching. I kind of hope there's not. So the first word, though, is not false accusers. And this is a big one because I believe this has to do, obviously, with our tongue. And we have to be careful that we don't go around falsely accusing people, If we don't know something to be 100% fact, we just keep our mouth shut. And if anything, the last 2 years has taught me that. Last 2 or 3 years has taught me that. And a lot of people will demand proof if you make an accusation. So be very, very careful what you accuse people of. Don't go around false accusing people. Watch your tongue. Not given to much wine. When I think of this, I believe this has to do with gluttony, being self-disciplined. Don't be gluttonous. Don't have a lack of self-control when it comes to basically any area in your life. But I believe, not given to much wine, that has to do with food or drink. So there's a lot of debate over this. People say that says not given to too much wine. So that's, endorsing drinking alcohol. I don't agree with that. Paul had talked about taking a little wine for thy stomach's sake. So I believe that would be medicinal. Grape juice does the same thing, and then you're not going to get drunk off of grape juice. So if you want the health benefits of the wine, I would suggest drinking grape juice. And then if you want the fermentation, you've got sauerkraut, you've got kombucha, you've got all this stuff that can help your stomach and your gut without getting you drunk. So hello, Mariros and Amber. I hope I said your name right. That's kind of hard to say. So then we've got teachers of good things. This is pretty self-explanatory. The Bible does say that women should teach other women. And there's no way around that. It's one of the reasons that I have this show. It's one of the reasons that I enjoy this small community of like-minded women. I do believe that because there are older women that are in my Gently Led Sisters group, I do believe that I'm learning every day of this journey. I'm learning more and more as I am a mom, as I go through different phases of motherhood, as I go through raising adult kids and teen kids and middle school kids and babies. I'm learning more and more. And then there's women who are ahead of me in the journey, and I can glean wisdom from them as well. So the Bible does say to be teachers of good things. No way around that one. Sober. And when I looked at the definition for sober, this can mean a couple things. Obviously, it does mean abstaining from alcohol, but it also means to be unhurried, calm, and subdued. And this is definitely one area that I've had to hone in my own life. And I feel like even being in the ministry, well, just like yesterday, for example, we went to church and the babies started out on the wrong foot and they were crying and fussy. They had just been a whole week, 3 days at camp and just run. So we went to church. We did that. As soon as church was over, literally within the half hour after church was over, we got in the car and drove, was it 2 or 3 hours to Jacksonville so that my husband could preach there. So we're just constantly on the go. And I feel like it's really tough for me to not get stressed out when we're just constantly go. So I have to be very mindful that my kids are going to pick up on my stress. So this is one thing that I work on, being able to rush, but not being stressed out, if that makes sense. So yes, definitely unhurried, calm, and subdued. I can work on that. I tend to, when we're in a hurry, tend to let it get me stressed out. So that's something I work on every day. Also love their husbands. And I like how this says specifically that they may teach the young women to be sober. So these are all things that the aged women are teaching the younger women to do. They're teaching them to be sober. They're teaching them to be unhurried and calm and abstaining from alcohol. They're teaching them to love their husbands. So this is an area where women need to be taught. Obviously, if the Bible is telling aged women to teach younger women, it's an area that we need. And there's so many things that come with loving your husband, isn't there? There's patience and endurance and compassion and respect. And there's so much that goes into loving your husband. And it's all good things, And obviously you can teach by example. You can teach by your life. But then the Bible specifically says that they may teach them. And I believe that that could be telling them things too. I mean, when you think of a teacher, you think of someone standing up there and teaching. The teaching is coming out of their lips. Love their children. Also another area. We obviously always have a natural love, But there will be hard times when our children are difficult and we have to power through and we have to love them. And the good times and the bad, same with our husbands. So, and then also the next word is discreet. And the meaning of this is wise in avoiding errors or evil. I like that. Circumspect, wary, and not rash. So, as women, the Lord wants us to be just take it slow. Don't be rash in our decision making. There's verses about the heart of her husband does safely trust in her, and I think being discreet would fit into that. Does your husband trust you to make good judgment calls, or are you just flying off the handle? Are you making spur of the moment decisions? Are you changing your mind constantly about things? So this is where discreet could play into. Chaste is the next one. It says to be discreet, chaste. Obviously, most of us know what this means. And in the Webster's Dictionary, it did say purity of the body, freedom from obscenity, purity in words and phrases. And I thought that was very interesting because those of you that know me know that I am extremely picky about the way you word things, about even the way you talk to others. I don't like name calling. I don't like belittling. I don't like profanity. So I think that not only should you be purity in the body, but you should also be, have purity in your words and your phrases, especially to other people, especially to saved brothers and sisters in Christ. So I think that was a really good meaning. And like I said, all of these are out of the Webster's 1828 dictionary. You guys can do searches, on stuff like this too, just to get a better understanding of what these kind of antique words are. We don't use words like chaste even very often, or discreet very often. We don't use words like that in our everyday vernacular. So it's always good to do like a word search. And then obviously keepers at home, which that's a big one for us, right? And the Webster's 1828 dictionary said one who keeps, obviously, one who has the care of good, complete or sufficiently, or no, one who has the care of anything. Sorry, good is the next word. So one who keeps, one who has the care of anything. So obviously, when it's talking about keepers at home, it's specifically about the home. That is the place that we keep. That's the place that we're kind of the queen of, and our husband trusts us to run the home. So that should be our main priority, is that Lucifer. Okay, I'm going to hide that person. I don't know who Lucifer is, but we're going to hide Lucifer. Joyce, I believe that's probably one of the biggest struggles in all of our lives. And I'm learning more and more as the years go on. So thanks, Grace. Thanks, Joyce. So then good is the next word. And this means complete or sufficiently perfect in its kind, comfortable to the moral law, virtuous, applied to actions. So I like that. And there's verses that talk about the virtuous women. So good goes right along in that, virtuous, applied to actions. And then the next verse is a key, or the next phrase is the key, obedient to their own husbands. And I'd like you to notice the word own, obedient to their own husbands. So this pretty much eliminates any man in the world telling another wife how she should act, telling another wife how she should present herself, telling another wife that she's loud or obnoxious, telling another wife that she's out of line. That pretty much eliminates everyone but your own husband. Your own husband you are obedient to. You're not supposed to be obedient to every other man in the world. You're supposed to be obedient to one man, and that is your husband. So let's see. So those are all the words in the most popular verses that come down to women and telling us how women should act. Those are the most the most talked about verses. So now that we've established the goal of any Christian woman, and that should be all of our goal, to work towards these. Maybe we're lacking in one of those. Maybe we're lacking at being a good keeper at home. Try to hone in on that. Maybe we're lacking at being discreet, or our love for our children has kind of waned through the years and we just find ourselves frustrated all the time with them and we just can't stand being around them, well, then there's a heart issue that you need to get to the bottom of. So all these things we should try to definitely be working on in our life. So, but that's the goal of any Christian woman, but let's focus on the fact that God made us all differently. And I wanted to read something that I wrote a few years ago, and I don't think many of you have seen it because it's on my website. It's on my blog. I'm noticing that blogs are becoming more and more outdated, and not many people are really reading as much when I write a blog post. I find that I get much more traffic when I actually copy and paste the blog post and put it on a Facebook post. People tend to read Facebook posts more than blog posts. So this is one that I wrote. I hope it won't be too long, but this kind of shows my heart. Most of you know I'm a better writer than I am a speaker. I feel very underqualified when it comes to speaking. My words don't come out exactly the way I want them to. My husband is the opposite. He's flipped. He's a better speaker than he is a writer. So, we both kind of, if he needs something written, he has me do it. If I'm trying to put something into words, I'll ask him, how should I say this? I want to get this across clearly. And he's so good at that, I think, just because he's a preacher. But this is something I wrote, and it really shows my heart, and it goes right along with the subject. So I hope you enjoy it. But only 15 people have seen it on my blog. So I know most of you probably haven't read it. But it's called Not Your Cookie Cutter's Pastor's Wife. And it says, in 1981, a beautiful, squalling, stubborn, tiny girl was born to first-time parents. Headstrong, competitive, and sassy, she took the world on by storm. By God's grace, her parents were saved when she was 1, and her life was drastically changed. She was raised in church, and at the tender age of 5, accepted the Lord as her Savior. If you think I'm going to end this short story by saying she grew in grace and matured into the perfect Proverbs 31 lady, married to a godly man, rode off into the sunset, and became the perfect example of a pastor's wife that everyone looked up to and admired, well, then you would be wrong. Have you ever seen Anne of Green Gables? One of my favorite movies, by the way. You remember Anne, the spunky, outspoken, determined young heroine, always getting into hilarious predicaments due to her personality and honesty. Take away the red hair, and you have me, Cassandra McMurtry, in a nutshell. Now try to imagine Anne as a pastor's wife. Can you imagine all the scrapes she would have gotten herself into? My husband was an assistant pastor when we married at 20. After serving under his dad for over 10 years, we were called into church planting. For almost 6 years now, at the time of the writing, now it's been 10, I have been a pastor's wife. But I will warn you, I am not your typical cookie cutter pastor's wife. And it took quite a long time for me to be okay with that. I want to be an encouragement to you pastors' wives, or to you women that are going to be going into the ministry, who feel like you aren't making the grade or measuring up, or you feel like a failure. Where did we get this flawed idea that pastors' wives are perfect, sinless, and must always look a certain way, act a certain way, have a spotless house at all times, and be 125 pounds with perfectly coiffed and styled hair? Not from the Bible. For about 10 years, I really struggled with fitting into a box. And that is true. It was about 10 years I really struggled with this. I just knew that if I read A, B, and C, I would act a certain way. I knew I could change my personality somehow. I could stuff all of my bluntness and honesty way down into myself, never to let it see the light of the day, and become the meek and quiet woman that I knew was expected of me. I would smile at all the right times. I would laugh at all the right times. I would gaze adoringly at my husband at all the right times. I would have perfectly dressed and groomed children at all times. The house would be spotless at all times. I get exhausted thinking of my life back then. To be honest, I can't help but be honest, I was miserable. When my husband planted our church and I went from having kids at the private school of our previous church to homeschooling them full time, I about lost my mind trying to keep up the facade. Then something clicked. What was I doing? Why was I reading all of these books on being the perfect pastor's wife and ignoring the book? Eagerly, I dove into the Bible. I would see what the Bible had to say about pastors' wives. First of all, you won't even find the term pastor's wife in the Bible. The Bible admonishes the aged women to teach the younger women, and sure, that could go for a pastor's wife. But I get the impression that those verses are to all older Christian women. There are many verses aimed towards women and growing in grace and becoming a woman of virtue, but those are addressed to all women, being it a plumber's wife, electrician's wife, principal's wife, you get the idea. There is one verse for deacons' wives, which is in 1 Timothy 3:11. It says, even so must their wives be grave, not slanderers, sober, faithful in all things. At different places in the Bible, all Christian women are instructed to be these things as well. So once again, this instruction could go for all Christian women. We also know the verses giving the requirements for a bishop and how one is to rule over his own house well. I happen to marry a man who loves my spunkiness, who loves to debate with me. He likes me having a different opinion, and he loves that I'm honest and blunt. So for us, it works. So yes, I did find my Gilbert. If you are that way and your husband doesn't like it, well, that's for a different devotional. I searched high and low in the Bible for pastor's wife advice, and I didn't find much. Remember how I said that the phrase isn't even in the Bible? I did find some gems that really spoke to my heart, though. Psalms 139, 13 through 14 says, for thou hast possessed my reins. Thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou comest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee. Job 31:15 says, did not he that made me in the womb make him? And did not one fashion us in the womb? Over and over, I found verses about God forming us, God molding us, God knowing us before we were even born. And God started to speak to me. God doesn't make mistakes when he's forming us in our mother's womb. He doesn't say, I know this one is going to be a pastor's wife, so let's make her naturally meek, very quiet, a perfect hostess, and elegant to top everything off. No. God equips us with exactly what we are going to need in our life. I've been through some rough patches in my life, so God granted me with a strong will. Having that strong will has enabled me to keep going when things have gotten tough. It's given me courage to say no to wrong decisions I wanted to make. It's helped me stay on the straight and narrow path. God has blessed me or cursed me, I haven't made up my mind yet, with the gift of complete honesty. I'm bold and I usually say the things that other people are thinking. But this gift has enabled me to open up to other people about my faith and witness boldly where other women would have a hard time. I'm competitive by nature. Instead of rejecting that, I use it to push me to be better, whether it's a better pianist, piano teacher, mom, wife, housekeeper, Christian lady, soul winner, whatever. After I concluded my study on being the best pastor's wife ever, I came to the conclusion that my one and only job as a pastor's wife is the same as any other Christian lady's, to be the best helpmeet to my husband that I can be. He just happens to be the pastor. If he wants me to head up something at the church, then I will to help him out. If he wants me to play piano, which of course he does, I'll gladly do it to be the best helpmeet to him I can be. If he loves my spunkiness and boldness, then why in the world would I try to stifle that? I tell our church people all the time, please do not put me on a pedestal. I don't belong up there, and if you put me on it, I'm going to fall off. Don't call me the first lady of our church. It's not a biblical term. It's a man-made term that was coined up for the president's wife, and for some reason, Baptists have accepted it as its own, and I'm not. To be called first means that you have arrived, that you're ahead of everyone else in this race called life. I haven't arrived. I'm a work in progress. I'm just married to the pastor. I'm a Christian, just like all the other godly ladies attending church, striving to become better Christians. My house isn't clean all the time. I live in a 1,300 square foot house, and I homeschool 6 kids. I don't homeschool 6 anymore. It's down to 4 or 5, something like that. That's an impossible expectation. I love having people over, but if you come over, my house will not be perfect. I often appear stressed out. Life is stressful. Sometimes I'm a little too blunt and too honest. I've learned to bite my tongue and show tact when needed. But if you don't want an honest answer, please don't ask me for the truth. I'm only 36 now. I'm 40. But I've been in the ministry 20 years now. One of the things I want to see end in my life is the exaltation and unrealistic expectations that are placed on the pastor's wife. It's nowhere in the Bible. And are we Bible believers or aren't we? So the past 6 years, past 10 now, have been the happiest of my life. I love learning under my husband, and I love growing with my church ladies. Once I learned to embrace the personality that God has given me, it brought such a liberty into my life, one that I had never experienced before, and I really hadn't. I experienced freedom and no more stifling pastor's wife guilt. Don't get me wrong. I'm always striving to be the Proverbs 31 woman. I also want to become more godly, more feminine, better at anything I put my hand to in life. But I'm no longer trying to stuff myself into a box. God gave us all different gifts, abilities, and personalities for a reason. They all meld together perfectly in a church family. And if you feel like a failure, please don't. There's not a cookie cutter pastor's wife. There's just you striving to become the Christian lady that God wants you to be. God knows our hearts, ladies. It's time to drop the facade and let the real you shine forth. So that is my cookie cutter pastor's wife blog post that only 15 people saw. So now you guys have heard it. So but yeah, that is my heart. That is kind of the struggles that I went through when I first became a pastor's wife. And I will have to say, since I got all that worked out, it's been much better. My life has been much more calm and peaceful. And I've learned to accept the unique personality that God gave me. Every single one of you has a unique personality. So I just want to go through a few things that when it comes to different personalities, things we can learn about ourselves, things we can put into play for other people. But yeah, just learning to put up with other personalities, in the church, especially. We have extroverts and we have introverts. Now, I just came from Revival Baptist Church, and I'm going to say Miss Robin is the type of pastor's wife that I thought I had to be. She pretty much checks every single box. When I think of the perfect pastor's wife, she pretty much, every box is checked. She's naturally quiet. She doesn't like to talk much, and that's fine. She's an introvert. She's the perfect hostess. She has people over all the time. They open up their home all the time. She's meek. She's quiet. She's, she minds her own business. She's not outgoing at all. Like I said, she's an introvert. And so to me, in my mind, that was what I had in my head as the perfect pastor's wife. And for Revival Baptist Church ladies, that's probably exactly the type of personality they need. But I do believe that different churches draw different personalities, and everyone has different needs within that church. So I don't know, maybe Liberty doesn't need a personality like mine, but they got it. So I try to strive to meet everyone's needs in the area that they need it, but just realize that in a church, you're going to have introverts, you're going to have extroverts. And I find it very rude if someone is introverted and an extrovert is like, "What's wrong with you? Why don't you ever talk?" That is so rude. They don't talk very much because God didn't make them that way. We have talkers, we have those that aren't talkers. And just like I would find it very rude if an introvert asked me, "Why do you like talking so much?" I don't understand that at all. I like talking because God made me a talker. God made me love being around people. God made me an extrovert. God made me with this type of personality. So I find it very rude. And I think extroverts and introverts need to show each other a lot of grace. Extroverts, show grace to the introverts. If they don't want to talk, leave them alone. Introverts, show grace to the extroverts. If they're talking your ear off, don't get annoyed with them. So, it goes definitely goes both ways when you've got introverts and extroverts in the church. So learn to get along with each other. And then realizing that your kids have different personalities. I have a lot of extroverted kids and I have a few introverted kids. Now, as the years have gone by, there's a difference between being introverted and just being extremely shy, where you're not going to be able to function in society. If you don't want to talk to anyone. And I've had a couple kids when they were really, really little where they had to overcome kind of this shyness. I had to push them out of their comfort zone. I would have them buy their own things. I would have them talk to people when we were out and about just to kind of get them used to really stepping outside their comfort zone. So there are things that you can, help with them. You don't want them to be crippled and be like so shy or so afraid of people that they're going to be awkward socially and never talking to people. So I really push my kids, even in church. Kelly's a perfect example. She won't even look at the person talking to her. She just stares straight ahead. She'll completely ignore them. So I'm really working on getting her. I had to do it with Abby. Abby was the same way. Getting her to look at people, getting her to talk to people, getting her, to respond. Now, because that is part of her personality that she's going to have to overcome, it's not something you punish your children for. Okay, realize that God did give us different personalities, but we can all work on our personalities. So where she is very shy, she's going to need to overcome that a little bit so she will not be awkward. Where I am very outgoing, I've had to rein that back quite a bit. I can tell, I can read people's social cues. I'm very socially aware when it comes to interacting with people. I can tell when they don't want to offer information if I'm asking, so I'll back off. And that's all stuff that we can work on in ourselves, and we'll go over that in a minute. I've often found, peace seeker, that a lot of marriage relationships is like that. You've got the extrovert and the introvert that are attracted to each other. And me and my husband's relationship, we're both extroverts. So when we're together, there's a lot of talking going on. There's not many quiet moments, but for us, that works really well. But I've found that with my friendships, I tend to be drawn to more of an introverted personality. I think we just kind of balance each other a little bit better. And with introverts, a lot of times I'm often able to draw them out or draw the conversation out more than another introvert would be able to. Some introverts panic when they have to talk to a new person, and they panic when they have to like think of new questions and think of new things to talk about. It's not a big deal for me. I like talking to people. I like hearing their stories. So I'm able to kind of draw conversation and little bits of information out of people pretty easily. So I think introverts like me because I make it easy on them to talk. They don't have to think of stuff to talk about. I'll just ask them about it. So, but yeah, realize that every personality has its strengths and it has its weaknesses. Like I said, where one of my strengths might be friendliness, one of my weaknesses might be just, reining that in a little bit if someone's not in the mood to talk or someone's not in the mood to tell me anything, that I need to be socially aware and rein that in. Realize that your personality might have flaws, and we are all flawed human beings, and we all do. Like I said at the beginning, when it comes to all those things that we need to work on that were listed in those verses, we all have different areas. Now, for me, looking at that list, being chaste, that's not really been a hard one for me. I have been chaste, purity of the body and freedom from obscenity. I can't remember a time in my life I've ever used profanity, purity in words and phrases. I can't think of a time in my life when I've ever used crude phrases or crude language. So being chaste is not something I really have to work on. But maybe, like I had said, what was the one about? Oh yeah, being sober. And one of the meanings was unhurried, calm, and subdued. That is one of my weaknesses. That's something I've had to work on because my type of, personality, I'm like, let's go, 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 hurry, 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 stress, stress, stress. I can get that way. So I've really had to work on calming myself. And sometimes Abby already is this way. She's an introvert. And so she kind of has a calm personality as it is. And sometimes she'll be like, Mom, chill, mom, chill. My kids will say, Mom, chill. My husband will say, Cassandra, chill. So that is something that I definitely have to work on. So definitely, know that you're going to have different areas of your personality that you have to work on. And realize that all of our backgrounds and the way that we are raised plays into our personalities as well. I always say, that's funny, Amanda. Yeah, me and Amanda are both extroverts and we click very well. And like I said, though, sometimes with extroverts, you understand each other. Like my husband and I understand each other really well. So Amanda, I just understand you really well. But I understand the introverted personality too, because I've had some people that are very close to me that are introverts. So I kind of understand that personality too. But realize that your background is going to play into, like I said, I was the oldest of 5. When my dad died when I was 17, I was kind of pushed into a leadership role. My mom then depended on me a lot to help her make decisions when it came to things around the house. She went from having a husband who made, a lot of the decisions around the home it was now on her shoulders. So she tended to turn to me a lot to ask my advice, even though I was only 17. So it forced me to grow up in a lot of areas. And I think it did bring a maturity to me. So I was ahead of girls my age at that point because it forced me to grow up. I'd been through loss. I experienced the loss of a parent. And then I was put into this mode of helping my mom make decisions, adult decisions, selling the house, finding a new house, moving, financial things she would ask me about. It was a lot of that. So, and then being the oldest of five, it really helped. And the kids kind of looked up to me too. What do we do in this situation? What do we do in this situation? So that naturally was going to come over into my marriage. Now, I was raised the right way when it comes to knowing that I get married. I submit. Am I always 100% perfect at this? No, absolutely not. Which one of us are? But over the years, I have learned that it's best to just, when it comes to submission, it's a choice. No one, this is America and we live in 2021. So we choose to put ourselves under our husband's leadership. And so I choose to put myself under my husband's leadership, even when it comes to a decision I don't necessarily agree with. It's best just to be quiet about it and trust his judgment. And after you've been married longer and longer and longer, you both learn to trust each other's judgment. I have learned that even if I don't agree with a decision he's made, he's probably right. And usually in the end, he's right. And he made the smart, godly decision. And I'm glad that he made it. I've seen it throughout our life in every area. So you do learn to trust your husband's judgment. He does, if he's a good godly man, striving to serve Jesus first and foremost, he's going to love you and he's going to make the decisions with that in mind. So obviously there's crummy husbands out there and it is hard to trust his judgment. But once again, if you're in that situation, that's a different show, a different topic. And even when it's hard, even if you don't agree, let's take something like television or a TV show or something. Let's say you have higher standards than your husband and you don't agree with him letting your kids watch a certain show. Well, what's going to hurt your children more? Them watching that show or them seeing their mom and dad bicker and fight and their mom not being submissive to their dad about it? I think that's going to have a bigger impact on them and, do more damage than letting your kids watch a show. That's my opinion on it. That's something that, maybe Christians get up in arms about. Maybe the woman does have higher standards when it comes to movies. And I've seen a lot of wives just really nag about that and make it a huge deal. And to me, I'm thinking your kids are seeing that. And then, when you want your kids to listen to your husband when it comes to something later on, don't be surprised when they rebel against him. So, they're looking up to you for your example, even when it comes to something small like a TV show or something. You need to learn to submit to your husband so that your kids eventually will too. So adjust to different personalities. There's going to be some personalities in the church that get under your skin. Most of the time, there are some people that are just like extreme and over the top and they annoy everyone. But the majority of the time, maybe you just need to learn to chill out. And maybe you need just to learn that it's not all about you. You don't come to church to see what you can get. You come to church to help other people. So it's not all about you. Don't come with this mindset of people just annoy me, people drive me nuts. Come determined to get along with everyone. Come determined to talk to maybe someone different that you don't normally talk to. Go outside of your little clique of friends that you normally have. Try to reach out to that person that's sitting alone by themselves and, strike up a conversation. Try to find the one that you haven't talked to in a couple weeks. Don't just come with this mindset that you're annoyed by everyone, because I've seen that a lot. People get annoyed or they get a burr under their saddle and they don't want to let it go. Be forgiving. Some personalities, like mine, are going to be blunt and they're not going to say something to intentionally hurt you. Figure out the difference. There are some women that are just mean and they say mean things and they're trying to say mean things and they're trying to hurt you. And then there's other women who are just outgoing and they talk before they think a lot of times. And I used to have foot and mouth disease quite often when I was younger. I've really learned kind of how to get past that and think before it comes out of my mouth. But some women just have foot and mouth disease and they just blurt it without thinking about it. They're not meaning to intentionally hurt you. If they do hurt you, maybe go to them and say, listen, this really hurt me. I'm trying to get past it and I forgive you for saying it. I just wanted you to know you don't want people to like walk on eggshells, but you also don't want to just like dwell on it and get bitter about it and have the anger build over that. So there is a fine line there. If you are an introvert, I know confrontation is hard for you. So if an extrovert does hurt you unintentionally, I know it's hard for you to say, that was kind of hurtful. But sometimes extroverts need to know that because they need to know, okay, some women are just more sensitive than others. And after time, you can kind of figure out which ones are more sensitive than this one or that one, and you can kind of adjust. But you might unintentionally hurt someone. So as an extrovert, you need to be careful about that, unintentionally hurting people. If you're just mean and you like being nasty to other people with your words, then you have a heart problem and you need to work on that. So let's see. I'm trying to Ooh, see? The Moreros, good point. They go off of what mom does quite often. So just remember that your kids are always watching you and they're seeing how you interact. And the same goes with even just pastoral advice. If you go to a church and your kids hear you constantly, can you believe what the pastor preached about? That was horrible. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And then something comes up in your life where you want your child to listen to your pastor. Maybe when it comes to purity before marriage or obeying their parents or, respecting their parents, and they're going to have that in their mind. Wait, this is the guy that mom and dad are always, cutting down and saying his preaching is horrible, saying his advice is stupid. And now they want me to listen to him. Kids are going to see that. So Joyce, sounds like you have the same problem as me. She said, while talking to a friend recently, I opened my mouth and I used the phrase, even though I'm much younger than you. She said, thanks. So see, she took it as, okay, so you're saying I'm a lot older than you, yeah, us extroverts, we struggle with that. But be socially aware. If you see someone's face and you're like this talking, and someone's shutting down, just end the conversation and let them have their alone time. Be socially aware of how you're coming off to other people. And then think about this. If you're chasing away every friend and loved one, maybe you're the issue. If you don't have any long-standing relationships in your life, maybe you're the issue. If you can't get along with anyone, but maybe your spouse, because you are stuck with them and you have to get along, maybe you're the issue. If you have multiple people that have problems with you, maybe you're the issue. Just think of it that way. If I feel like people that I've known throughout my life, and usually they're some of the most toxic people I know. They like to blame everyone else for loss of friendship and different things like that. But in reality, they're the ones that are severing friendships and getting offended over everything. As a friend, you need to seek to not be offendable. Seek to have thick skin. Seek not to take everything the wrong way. And then look at personalities when it comes to that. Maybe you have a very extroverted friend and they just are clueless when it comes to their words hurting you. So, take that into consideration. And I say extrovert just because I'm an extrovert and I tend to feel like extroverts, we just talk, probably twice as much as introverts. So our words are going to get us into more trouble than introverts, but introverts can be the same way too. So even if you're an introvert, you need to be aware of this stuff. Definitely. So Sarah said a lot of times people crave drama from others in their life because they witnessed it so much with their parents and it's what they're most comfortable with. I never thought about that. I never really thought about that. And now that I think about my life, I don't like drama very much. I don't like people throwing fits and causing huge stinks. And I'm trying to think, and my mom was very like, no drama type personality. And my dad really was too. My dad pretty much got along with everyone. He made friends wherever he went. He talked to everyone. Everyone liked him. He was just a really happy, nice guy to be around that didn't have anything bad to say about anyone. He was gracious to a fault. And there wasn't in our home, there really wasn't a lot of drama growing up. So once again, that could be, your home life, especially from 0 through 18, shapes so much of your personality and so much of who you are that probably plays into it. Even with my siblings now, there are a lot of things that we really disagree with on. We disagree with each other on, but there's very, very, very rarely drama over that. We've learned to just accept each other with all of our flaws and our differences, and we've learned to just live with that. And that's just something that my family growing up, we were able to have discussions and debates and not get bent out of shape and confront each other about things and then just move on. So I think that is one good thing that I like from my family growing up, is that we didn't have much drama. So that was a good point to bring up, Sarah. Definitely. Janella, you are quiet. But once again, I find you very easy to talk to. So maybe that's just because I'm an extrovert. And you are correct. As a pastor's wife, you have to make yourself be sociable at church so that people don't think you're being a snob. And as a pastor's wife, people can really take that. I do think that even if you're an introvert, you kind of need to push yourself to be a little, friendly, especially to visitors and things that come through your church, because you are a reflection of your husband. And churches tend to take on the personality of their pastors, and sometimes pastors' wives, the church ladies do. So maybe that's why my church ladies were all very resourceful and very, I don't know, just they're very hands-on with a lot of stuff and independent when it comes to different things. So I don't know. It'd be very interesting to look into, but but then also don't feel like some days maybe you just can't be that way. Don't feel bad about having to just take a down day every now and then to recharge. But yes, and I think if you just make a point as a pastor's wife to smile, that goes far. And just, say hello to them, inquire how they're doing, talk to their kids. That goes a long way as a pastor's wife. So while I don't think someone can completely change their personality, I do believe that God can mold us and change us and shape us. And I'm 40 now. The last 20 years, I've definitely learned a lot along the way. I've definitely learned to have thicker skin. I've definitely learned how to rein in my personality when it comes to a lot of things. But overall, my personality is pretty much the same now as it was when I was a teenager, as far as being an extrovert, being outgoing. Like, I like to be around people. I like to talk to people. I don't like to be off by myself doing my own thing. That's not my personality at all. So overall, that really hasn't changed much. And I get that from my dad. My mom is actually an introvert. So I definitely take after my dad's personality when it comes that way. But just remember to accept the flaws of others, and try to focus on the good parts of others. Whereas you might be an extrovert, your introverted friend, they might have noticed things that you've never noticed. Introverted people tend to be very reflective. They tend to be very aware of what's going on around them. They tend to watch more than they talk. And us extroverted people, we tend to be in the middle of the action, of the chaos, of the loudness. So maybe we're not noticing all the stuff on the fringe, where the introverts, they kind of notice everything. So, even if you perceive something as a flaw in other people, maybe you think someone's too shy, or you think someone's not outgoing enough, or as an introvert, you think that someone's too outgoing, just realize that they're different from you, and God made us all different, and we just need to learn to live with each other and accept the flaws of others. And you do it in your own marriage. I mean, that you're with each other for better, for worse, and you have to work through things. So as a friend, why would you not try to work through issues? Um, when it comes to my friends, and Amanda's the same way. We tend to stick up for each other. We tend to defend each other. We tend to be very loyal to each other. And maybe an extrovert is more like that, but an introvert is not so public about it. But maybe an introvert will just show you through action. They won't turn on you when other people turn on you. They're there for the long haul. They're loyal to you no matter what. They might not be as public about it as extroverts would be, but an introvert is a really good friend to have. I say that because I've had a lot throughout my life. And they are my best friend. We've been best friends since 12, and I have no question in my mind. She is with me. She's my best friend till death. I know that. And she knows that about me. It's so funny because even as teenagers, there was a boy in the youth group who was mean to her, and I had his number. Like, I knew I had my eye on him. I was not happy with him. And she's just like, calm down, calm down. Like, she's okay with it. But I was ready to go to war. I'm like, he hurt you. I'm going to go tell him off. I don't like that kid. I'm ready to go to war. And she's just like calming me down, calming me down. I'm the Anne. I'm the one with all the crazy ideas. Let's do this. And she's the Diana. She's like, okay, calm down. The logical, like, we need to think about this. She said that she would be talking to me, and her husband Tony would get home, and she's like, I'm going to do this. I have this idea. And he would look at her and be like, you've been talking to Cassie again, haven't you? He always knew when she'd been talking to me, and I'd be like, you should do this and you should do that. And, because I've got all these ideas, and we can make money this way, and you can do this. And it's just funny that he always knew, you've been talking to Cassie again, haven't you? So, we both have our strengths and weaknesses when it comes to stuff like that. So a wise old owl sat in the oak. Yeah, they do. That's really funny. I like that one. Yes. Yep, that's fine, Shadella. And see, you've learned what your boundaries are. She said some days are hard, especially when dealing with little ones. Oh, that's really hard anyways. It's hard not to get stressed out when dealing with little ones. I have to go sit in the car for a few minutes after the service because that's the way you recharge, because you're an introvert. You have to be by yourself, and you have to just have the quiet. And then you're able to go back in smiling. So, yep, as an introvert, that's what you need. And you've realized that, which is good, because that's going to help you be a better pastor's wife to other people. So a wise old owl sat in an oak. The more he saw, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. Why can't we all be like that wise old bird? And all the extroverts say, yeah, why can't we? And all the introverts are saying, amen. But they both have their strengths and weaknesses. So treat others the way you want to be treated when it comes to your personality. Treat other personalities that way. Be gracious with people. Be forgiving with people. Ask for forgiveness if you are unintentionally mean or unintentionally rude or unintentionally hurt other people's feelings. And then overlook annoyances. And that's in a body of believers, we are a family. And just as with your husband, you put up with stuff with people in church too. I feel like people are way too quick to just turn on a dime against people. And I don't understand that. It's not natural to hate your brother and sister in Christ. It's not natural to hate someone in your family. And the reason that I'm gracious with people, and I'm not ready to just like, let's throw them out of the church. Yeah. When they do something, they slip up, they mess up, they cross me, and, they do me harm, is because I genuinely care for people, So if you have genuine love for your brother and sister in Christ, you're not going to turn on a dime and turn that love into hate. That's not natural. When you love someone, you show them grace, you extend grace, you forgive them. You love your husband, so you overlook a lot of his faults. You love your husband, so you forgive him. You love your husband, so you put up with him, right? And it's the same way with people in the church. We're too quick to turn on people when we're all just sinful human beings. We all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses. And God gave each of us a different personality. No two people are exactly alike. Just like no two snowflakes are exactly alike, no two people are exactly alike. We all have strengths, we all have weaknesses, but yet we come together in this body of believers to perfectly form this church and to perfectly form Liberty Baptist Church, to perfectly form Revival Baptist Church, to perfectly form all these other churches. We come together. We have people from Mountain Baptist Church. We have people from Love Assembly Baptist Church in here. And then all other, Baptist churches across the nation. You have a unique set of personalities in that church. So just learn to put up with other personalities and learn to embrace the personality that God gave you. Don't be ashamed of being outgoing. God's going to use that in different areas of your life. I never knew that because I was outgoing, I would have a show. I just got a super nice message from someone today telling me, I'm a grandma to 13 grandkids, and she watches my show. Why? I don't know. So shout out to you that messaged me. That was super nice, and it just made my day. And it's emails that I get and messages that I get like that just make my day. And I never knew that being outgoing, you kind of have to be outgoing to be behind a camera. You have to have thick skin. You have to be ready for people to not like you. And that's totally fine. So all my years of ministry have kind of built up to that. But then the good outweighs the bad. I have women that have just been saved that reach out to me, and they love talking with all of you in the chat. They love talking with all of you in the Facebook group. And maybe they don't have a good church to go to, and they don't have a mom that's saved. So they need other older moms to glean information from. And that's where this comes in, and it's useful. So it's part of my personality. And a lot of introverts don't like this. Like I said, I had to talk Miss Robin on speaking. And this is the funny story. Okay, I'll tell you this. And so you kind of have this in context for next week or whenever this airs. So I had told the ladies we're doing a special Gently Led Sisters, and at the end, I want all of you to come up and give a piece of advice from, different things that you've learned. And I said, I really want Miss Robin to come up here. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, oh, wow. She, because I've tried to get her on my show before. And she's like, I just can't do it, Cassandra. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, okay, because I'm not going to push it. I understand her personality is different than mine. But she was like, yeah, okay. So at the end, I'm like, Miss Robin, you want to come now? She's like, yeah. So she gets up there, gives her advice. It was great. And then she sits down. Another lady gets up, and we had a microphone clipped to the stand. And she was short. So she's like, I'll just stand to the side. I'm like, no, stand to the other side where the microphone is. So she moved over, and Miss Robin said, she was like, microphone? And she said she turned to look back and saw the video camera on. And she was like, no, like thinking that in her head, I can't believe this. She did not know she was being taped. So afterwards, she's like, I'm going to ask Brother Garrett to clip me out. So she went and asked Brother Garrett, and he's like, sure. And I'm like, Brother Garrett, don't do it. Don't clip her out. But then a little bit later, Pastor Boyle said, Brother Garrett, don't clip my wife out. So I'm like, see, Robin, you're going to be on there now. So you're going to hear a little bit of good advice from Miss Robin, who has not been on YouTube. Like one other time she was, but she was so quiet, we couldn't really even hear what she was saying. So that'll be interesting whenever that airs. But once again, different personality than me. And I said at the beginning, we were doing this special Gently Led. So I don't know why it didn't click with her that it was being recorded. So watch for that. But just realize that God makes no mistakes. There's a song, I think it's done by Patch the Pirate, maybe. I know God makes no mistakes. No, that's different. That's talking about just things that you go through in your life. But there are some songs about being fearfully and wonderfully made that are really, really good for our kids to learn. Because, as kids are growing up, really hone in on their strengths and really hone in on their weaknesses. And I do recommend reading. There's a book by, I think his name is Kevin Leman, and it's called The Birth Order Book or something along those lines. If you look up Kevin Leman Birth Order Book, it should come up. And it's very interesting. I read it years ago, and it really kind of explained a lot of why the older child, middle child, younger child, why we all kind of have our personalities that we have. And birth order plays a lot into it. What order of the family that you are born into plays a whole lot into that. So I would recommend that book. I would recommend the 5 Love Language book for kids to kind of find out more of their personalities. I would recommend the 5 Love Language book for you to find out, your husband's, maybe you find out one of your friends. There's a spiritual gifts test that you can take, which is really good at seeing what you would be good at around the church. Maybe you are acts of service, you're good at serving, administration, exhortation. There's different spiritual gifts that God has equipped. If you're a believer and you have the Holy Spirit in you, God has equipped you with these spiritual gifts that you can use in your local church. So I would recommend all of those resources if you want to look into more of the personality. I won't recommend things like Myers-Briggs. Myers-Briggs is very fascinating to me, but it does have its roots in like psychology and different things like that. I know that can be a little iffy with Christians. It is interesting. Take it with a grain of salt, though, if you ever do the Myers-Briggs personality test. My personality is like 1% of females. So, if you love me, you love me. If you hate me, you hate me. So most people tend to like me when I'm voicing the opinion that they have. But then if I have a different opinion or I stand up for something that they don't believe in, that's when it turns to hate very quickly. So that is my type of personality. But we all are different. And once again, I'm going to refer back to the verse where it says, in submission to your own husbands. It doesn't say to men everywhere. So I see a lot of men out there in comments, and a lot of them are like young married guys that think they just want to get married to someone who's going to run their home and bear their children, and they don't even see that person as a unique individual that God made with a unique personality. They want them to fit a certain mold, and they think they're just going to marry them, and then they're just going to sit in their house and be happy, and that's it. Life is perfectly. They don't realize how much work goes into marriage and how much of yourself you have to give, and how it's both couples giving, 100% into that marriage. So it's not like a pet that you just, or a plant that you just water and then it's fine. It just sits there and it's great. No, that's how I think some single guys see a future wife. It's just something that they're going to get and water every now and then, and it's going to thrive. No, different people with different personalities, and it takes a lot of work. So, all right, guys, any more questions or comments, leave them down below. If you are a troll, it will be deleted. Yeah, it is an awful candidate for a husband. That's why they're probably like in their 30s and not married yet. So, yes, there are many Bible verses about the husband treating the wife as the weaker vessel and loving them as Christ loved the church, and Christ loved the church an awful lot. So, but anyways, that wraps it up. If you have any questions or comments, leave it down below. Go ahead and share, all that good stuff. So hopefully this has been a help. Thank you all for encouraging emails and encouraging messages. It means a lot. It really does mean a lot to me. And I will see you in a week or two. Look for the newest episode, which will be interesting coming out. So until next time, we'll see you guys later.